Okay, we are live and good morning to everyone who has joined us again this Wednesday morning. It is June the 12th and this is the podcast that where we talk about life and work in Japan. Today we have another very special guest whose name is Michael Ryan, and we are going to hear some tips about moving, living, and working in Japan, I believe, from Michael. Of course, we're going to dive into Q&A session once Michael has finished telling us the general story or the couple of stories he has prepared for everybody this morning. But before that, I would like to just introduce once again our sponsor, Kanchu.com. And probably already know that Kanchu.com offers bilingual services to individuals who want to buy and sell real estate in Tokyo and Kanagawa. It is a big let's say, obstacle to a lot of foreigners who have just moved here to find a place to live or to buy a place or to sell a place. So our recommendation is you connect with James Howell at james@kanacho.com, and you have all the services customized to your needs. So that's it for the moment. We're going to move forward. And Michael, I don't want to keep anybody waiting anymore. I'll give you the screen and the spotlight, and let's talk about today's topic: tips for people moving to Japan. Well, the screen is yours, and the mic is yours as well.
All right, thanks, Maya. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Maya, again for having me on the podcast. Also, thanks to Tim. So, the topic I came up with for today's talk was it kind of inspired by a post that I saw from Maya last week about a question that you were asked at Sushi Tech. And
Right.
again, it's kind of
Yes.
what's the one piece of advice you would give to someone coming to Japan? So when I saw that, loads of different things popped into my mind. But after reflection, I kind of took a step back and reflected on, and I'm in Japan since 1991, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But I really kind of took a bit of time to think about that question, because it's quite a simple question, but it's very, very involved. And the answer I came up with was try new things. And as I was thinking about that, I kind of reflected back on, first of all, kind of what brought me to Japan in the first place, how I began to integrate into Japanese society, learn Japanese, and then kind of how that also kind of translated across into business and how my career evolved within Japan. And the one key theme through the entire thing is try new things. Very simple, but extremely powerful principle. And to be honest, it's not just specific to Japan. I guess it's transferable to all new situations. Whether you're traveling to a new country, joining a new company, or whatever, but this concept of trying new things is something that I'd like to talk about from my particular specific experience, I guess, over the past 33, 34 years in Japan. So it's going to be a bit of a ramble. It's not again structured again, the beginning, the middle, and the end kind of. But other than that, there's very little structure. So bear with me as I kind of work through the different sections. So I guess sorry, Maya, I think you're on mute.
Yes, I'm sorry. We love the natural flow of the conversation, so
Okay.
let's get straight
Okay.
into it. Yes.
All right, cool. Okay, thanks. All right. So I guess a bit of background about myself first. I grew up in Ireland in a small town on the west coast called Athenry. Went to college in Ireland as well. I guess the first major try new things event in my life, at least in my professional life, was when Japanese companies decided that they needed to kind of have more English within the company. And remember, this is back in the late 90s, or sorry, the early 90s, 1991. So the Irish government and Japan had a program at the time where the Irish government would like graduates to go to Japan, hopefully to bring back work and companies and knowledge back to Ireland from Japan. And from the Japan perspective, they wanted to integrate more English speaking into the companies in Japan. So there was a program going on at the time. And just as I was coming up to my final exams, I had the opportunity to listen to a few of those companies, what they were doing, and then was asked if I wanted to move to Japan, or wanted to kind of write up a bit of an essay on what would be interesting in moving to Japan, do some interviews. And at the time I was studying IT, so from my perspective, Japan was kind of leading the fight on the IT side. The bleeding edge of technology was kind of coming from Japan at that time. So again, that was the first time that I decided to try something really new. A lot of my friends kind of looked at me and thought I was crazy. To be honest, I didn't really know myself. At the time, all my friends, all my college buddies were going to Seattle, going to Microsoft, and other kind of comparable IT related jobs within Europe, Europe and the US. I know I was the only one who came to Asia. So that was definitely trying new things at a whole new level. And again, over the years I've become a little bit of an extrovert, but I definitely was very much of an introvert when I started on my career. Again, I know people say if you're an extrovert, it's easier to try new things and whatnot, but I don't completely believe that. I think it's just the opportunity and what you do at that point in time. But yeah, anyway, I digress. So yeah, moving to Japan was a huge leap in trying something new. When I landed in Japan first, I was in a small town in Kobe, living in a dormitory with the other workers in the office, which again was a completely new experience to me. At that point in time, I didn't have any Japanese. I think we learned before coming to Japan, I learned how to count to 10, say hello and goodbye and thank you. So that was about the level of my Japanese at that point in time. Working in the office was interesting. Again, of course, coming straight out of college, I had no work experience, so I didn't really know what to expect in the first place. But again, that regiment of going to the office, walking home, meeting with colleagues was quite new to me. And one of the next kind of new things that I experienced was when I'd come back home to the dormitory every evening. I passed this room and there was always activity going on. Always, it didn't matter what day of the week, almost what time of day or night it was. There was always something happening in this particular communal room. And of course, it took me a while to kind of work up the courage to kind of ask what was going on and try to see if I could even get in there and if they would accept me. And I eventually found out that they were playing mahjong. So after I kind of talked a little bit more, one of the guys kind of laughingly said, "Oh, we'll teach you how to play. Don't worry." So again, I said, well, "Okay." I didn't know how much it was going to cost me. It probably ended up being cheaper than Japanese lessons, but it still was quite a costly learning experience, if I can put it that way. But because I tried that, it opened up so many different avenues for me. And again, I'm not suggesting that people coming to Japan should play mahjong, although it is quite fun. Um, but it not only kind of catapulted me into the Japanese language, it just allowed me to kind of integrate at a very low cultural level and to build some very strong bonds with people really, really quickly. Um, and it definitely was one of the key things that kind of got me up and running in Japan, like having that ability to kind of connect at a very, very low level with people. And like after we played mahjong, whoever won, we'd all go for breakfast or dinner or lunch, depending on what time of day or night it was. We finished, and the winner would pay for everyone. So it wasn't gambling per se. Well, mahjong's gambling, but it wasn't kind of yeah, overly overly stressful gambling. It was more friendly gambling within the company, and we would kind of settle the books once a year as well, rather than every time. So there was a ledger and blah blah blah. So lots of history and lots of fun memories around those times. But I guess the point I wanted to make, if I hadn't have tried that, and again, completely new to me, in a new country, new life, not able to speak the language, but because I kind of stepped out of my comfort zone and tried that activity, it really kind of gave me a leg up into assimilating within Japan. And like I said, I built very, very strong friendships with the people. I still play mahjong maybe once a month, twice, once every 2 months or so. And it's just been a lovely, it's a lovely pastime. Again, I feel like I'm trying to persuade people to play mahjong, but that's not the point. But if you can find something like that allows you to quickly integrate, and again, it could be something like baseball, it could be soccer, it could be bridge, it could be anything. But trying something new like that, even if you're kind of not familiar with it's definitely highly recommended. So, and again, it's as I worked and kind of further got to know the people there, they presented me other opportunities, whether it was climbing Mount Fuji, uh, carrying a portable shrine again during one of the matsuris. That's another great way to kind of get involved in the community, as an activity, and to kind of participate and build friendships. Going to karaoke, all these typical things that you would do in Japan. I'm not a good singer, but again, that doesn't stop me anymore. And the great thing about Japan is nobody really worries too much about that. I think we overly worry about how good or bad we are, but yeah, it's more about participation, than the quality. Thank God. Again, hiking, fishing, anything, and sometimes it may need you may need to step out of your comfort zone, but the quicker you can kind of make those personal connections, the faster you're going to begin to learn Japanese, the more opportunities you're going to get to further integrate. So yeah, definitely, I would strongly recommend trying to find some kind of hook that you can bootstrap yourself into the society and begin to learn Japanese in a fun way. One of the hardest things about Japanese is well, learning Japanese. But if it's fun, it just makes it so much easier. If you're learning words about, I don't know, fishing or hiking or baseball, or it's fun, and you learn it a lot faster than you do. Well, at least I do. I'm not a very good study, so my learning method is to kind of participate rather than to study. But I do think that having that fun aspect will really help in um, accelerating the learning process. And again, as you do it, you kind of keep pulling yourself further and further into the culture.
Right.
which is really good.
I love your story. We're so aligned in that because you can tell people, oh, you moved to Japan, here's how you get your visa, but you're focusing on the human side of it, which is the most important, right? And
Yeah, yeah,
connecting with people, doing it in a fun way, as you said. I like the word a hook, right? and
Mm,
and you were downplaying, don't play mahjong because it's a gambling thing, but a more general way to look at it, and this is actually a true story. Okay, so I used to tour all around the South in the U.S. helping Japanese Americans work together. It was always troubled suppliers where they'd bring me in to kind of mediate, right? And the one time I went to a place, and what I used to do is have their groups done separately, Japanese Americans, and I have them make lists. What do you like about working with the other guys, and what are the challenges, the difficulties, right? And only one place had more positives than negatives by both sides. And I asked them, I go, this is highly unusual. It's the first time. What is your secret? And one of the Americans said, oh, every month I have a Texas Hold'em party and I invite all the Japanese managers and they bring their own alcohol. And he goes, we're focused on a game. So there's no pressure to talk because there's a game and we all understand the rules of the game. And then as they have a few drinks, they loosen up and we built relationships. So now when we go to work, we want to help each other. And
yeah, yeah.
in building
But
your relationships, as you said, those are multipliers because not only are you building relationships, now at work, they want to help you. It's in their interest to see you succeed. So there's so many good things that come from this relationship building. So I'm really glad
yeah,
that you told
yeah.
that story.
Mm. And if you don't mind me, I also think that it is very much aligned with how people learn in Japan per se, because here you learn by observing others and doing what they do, right? It's not like you have a textbook and you learn from the textbook to read the room, for example, or to read the expressions of your boss or your peers and so on. It's always like you observe, you watch what is happening, and you tune in
mm,
without
mm,
asking questions or without people telling you you should do this or you should do that. So it is so much aligned with even how things are done here and how people, I mean, even how the Japanese learn, right? How the kids learn as well. So yes,
it's interesting, and it reminded, as you're talking there, it reminded me of the first time I started speaking a little bit of Japanese was actually because of the mahjong. And
mm-hmm,
what I started doing is I started mimicking people. So I knew that when Tanaka-san got something bad, he'd always go chikusho. I had no idea what it meant. So, but I started
Yeah.
picking up these things,
Yeah.
and
yes,
I go by situation. So I would actually throw out these words random, like in different, and everybody thought I could speak Japanese because I throw them out just at the right time.
Yeah. Right.
mhm,
Right. Right. Right.
It was pure imitation at the beginning, but I remember that's how I remember beginning to think that I'm actually learning a language here because I know the timing and I can say the word and I have no idea what it means, but yeah,
yes,
that was mahjong for me. Yeah, yeah.
Oh man. And you mentioned also that, introvert versus extrovert. In my case, I always thought I was an extrovert. I got tested years later and they said, no, you're an introvert. And so I think about it when I was younger,
Mm,
I came when I was 19. It wasn't that I was a introvert or expert in my case. I was just too stupid not to be afraid. And I was just tried everything. And I wasn't that concerned about offending people because I had no clue what an offensive kind of behavior would be. It
yeah,
didn't even occur, it wasn't on my radar, right? And now that I'm
yeah,
older, I'm a little more careful because I don't want to offend, And so to me, it was maybe I've
yeah.
become less social too, but it was
Mm,
my youth. the stupidity
Yeah,
of youth sometimes is a good thing.
yeah, and maybe I'm thinking about it too much. Maybe it just was, yeah, being young and
I can only speak for myself, but
yeah. That's a good point. Good point. So, yeah, one other very interesting experience that I had was learning Kyudo. Again, if you want to understand quickly about Japanese culture, get into one of the martial arts. Um,
uh,
for me, it was Kyudo, uh, and looking back, it's like everybody coming to Japan, it should be mandatory that you do a year in one of those disciplines just to kind of get a crash course on how things work. But again, I kind of jump ahead a little bit here, but going back to first of all, why did I try Kyudo? It was, and again, it was just one of those random kind of coincidences. I didn't want to learn Kyudo. It never crossed my mind to learn Kyudo. But my wife had always wanted my son to be able to do it. Because we live in Kamakura and the Yabusame, the horseback archery here, it's like, oh, it's like so nice. And my wife had these dreams of my son up on the horse riding him down the temple. But there was an opportunity to kind of try Kyudo without having to buy all of the gear and to kind of subscribe
Mhm.
to a particular dojo. I think they do it maybe once every year, 2 years, where it's just, yeah, come along, you don't need anything, just try it out. If you like it, you can then do it afterwards. So my wife, I think I was probably working, and my wife said, "Oh, look, this is on today. Can you bring our son down and try it? He can try it out, and if he likes it, let's get him into Kyudo." So when I got there, they were practicing, kind of showing people what it was, and it just looked so interesting, so different. So I kind of talked to the guys there, and I said, look, I didn't have my name down for it. My son is here to try, but this is like really love to try it. Like, can you fit me in? And they said, yeah, no problem, no problem. So um, I started the course there with my son as well. Like after two or three lessons, my son dropped out, and I continued. So
Right.
I ended up staying, and I only ever advanced as far as the first dan, the shodan. But it was such an eye opener, because
oh,
if I
interesting.
kind of boil down Kyudo a little bit, it's basically a process where if you follow the process, you will hit the target.
Yeah,
Okay.
You're
process
you're not
oriented. Yeah.
you're not allowed, like, you shouldn't try and hit the target. You should follow the process. There's a process for entering the dojo. There's a process for walking up to the where you shoot. There's a process for notching your arrow. There's a process for drawing the bow. There's a process for releasing the arrow. There's a process for finishing the process. And if you follow all of that, you will hit the target. And that to me was like, whoa. Like, again, going through college, consulting and whatnot, you're taught that the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. So you kind of, that's your, from a consulting perspective, you're always trying to optimize and whatnot. But
Mhm.
this was kind of, whoa, this is a roundabout way to get to where you're going. Um, it,
Right.
it was also very, very interesting practicing beside, like, Rokudan. And when they miss, they actually uh, go back to that word I mentioned earlier, show. So it's like, ah, oh, damn it. So, and we're trained not to do that. But even of course, the six stands, they like to hit the target. But
Right.
as I was doing it, it really kind of clicked with me from a Japanese process, a working perspective, like having the experience. Like, I've seen all of these processes. Um, Again, there's never such thing as a straight line in Japan. It's always, you got to think about this and this risk and that risk and mitigate this and that and the other, and eventually you'll get to the goal. And that really kind of the practicing Kyudo really helped me kind of solidify that thought
Yeah.
process in my mind.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking that if I had done that 30 years ago, yeah, it would have been very beneficial to
Right.
have that
Yeah.
concept
Yes.
in my mind. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And it's not a coincidence that at the end of any martial art is do, which is the way, which
Mm,
implies process. And of
Process.
course,
yeah,
Tao is the same as it's written with the same Michi, right? The
Mhm.
way, right?
Yes.
So it's so ingrained into the Japanese thinking, that process orientation, especially me, as manufacturing, same way. Once they commit to that process, the process must be followed. And
Yeah.
so again, that's a nice way to encapsulate so much of what goes on in the culture. So I
Yes.
appreciate
mm,
that.
It is. I also find it very, very not interesting, but encouraging what you said a little bit earlier, Mike, about it was so different and it was so interesting and attractive because it was different.
mm,
So, and I think that for some people, it's still, when they see something different and something that they do not understand at first sight, the natural reaction is to just to back up and say, "Ah, no, 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 it's not for me." But I think that, and once again, we go back to some of the conversations we have had with Tim, that it takes a certain type of personality to venture into the unknown and to appreciate the different things and really have that curiosity and willingness to dive into them and to learn how they happen and why they are different and so on. So maybe that's another thing that we need to consider when we talk about moving to not just Japan, but to any other
mm,
country that's different
Any
from your
yeah,
culture.
own, any
yeah.
culture. Yeah. Mm.
And the interesting thing is that all of those things that I've experienced helped me so much in business
Right.
because the biggest challenge with doing business in Japan, or I guess any country, is building the initial association with the person that you're talking to.
Yeah.
So if you have some point in your life that you can provide an example that that person can associate with, and again, we often talk about our families, our children, and stuff. But if oh, I lived in Kobe and I learned Japanese through mahjong, and you play mahjong, I play mahjong too. So
Right.
all of these experiences allow you to have again that hook to build an association that makes doing business easier.
Yeah.
And without like the worst thing is to try to do business with someone that you have no connection with. And again, it's not. I'm not talking one. It can be an extremely roundabout connection.
Right.
But you need that connection, and the more of these experiences, the more of these local experiences you have, the
Hmm.
easier it is to connect with people.
Yeah.
And all of these examples have time and time again, I have used them in business to help me build that initial rapport with people and to kind of get to a trust level where, okay, I think I can do business with this guy. So
Yeah.
it's all about building that ammunition as well. So it's learning, it's integrating, but it's also the future. So it's very very important.
Hmm. Yes. Indeed. Another thing is that what you just mentioned, about building relationships. And I think that it is true in every country, every business field. But in Japan, it is multiplied by 100 or maybe 1,000 times
Yeah.
because nothing happens if you haven't actually established that connection. And as you said, sometimes it doesn't have to be a deep connection at all. But once it is there, it makes things easier, quite
Yeah,
easier actually. So
absolutely, absolutely.
yes. Mm.
Yeah. And again, I guess, just to finish out kind of the middle part of what I
Yes.
wanted to talk about. The other thing is getting involved in the local community.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess it's easier for me living in Kamakura. It's a bit more rural. I kind of know my neighbors. We say hello every morning. Um, Part of the Chonaikai. But if you can find a way to get connected with the community as well, it really, really helps. And as I mentioned earlier, it might be something like carrying the portable shrine in the Natsamatsuri or the Omikoshi, yeah, or even clean day when everybody when the neighborhood gets together to go pick up garbage and do a bit of tidying around the. But anything like that that you can kind of get into those community type of activity. One thing I do, again, I grow out my beard in the latter part of the year, so I help with Christmas workshops, Christmas card workshops for kids and stuff. And look, any opportunity to kind of get involved and with the community is also a really, really good way to learn Japanese, make very strong relationships, and the local relationships I've met have actually translated into business.
Mhm.
Because there's many people that work for many different companies that are living in the same area, and you would be surprised who is in your neighborhood. Very much so, and definitely it's highly recommended as another way to try new things, to kind of jump in, put your hand up. I'm doing a talk next month on cybersecurity to the local Chonai Kai. Just we just see so many kind of fake emails, fake links, fake calls, fake this, fake that. There's been people in the area that have been defrauded out of money. So I'll be doing a bit of a talk and kind of framing it in a way that the elderly neighbors and the more elderly side of the community is able to
Right.
understand things to watch out for. And again, from my background, I've been involved in that area a lot. So I see stuff coming into myself, my wife, my kids. So like they're so appreciative of that because they really
Sure.
they struggle but anything that you can do like that, definitely try it. Put your hand up, get involved, and
Mhm.
try some new things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, you're proactively finding a way to contribute, and you're doing it
yeah,
in an authentic way. You're not trying to be Japanese. You're being Santa Claus at the end of the year. You're being, you're bringing your own talent to the table and offering to give it. And I think that's invaluable. I love that approach. You
Yes.
know, yeah,
It is
yeah.
wonderful indeed. And well, Mike, your story, it has generated a few, well, a couple of questions already on different
nice.
platforms.
Okay,
And
all right.
before I, read them out to you, I just wanted to give a shout out once again to our other sponsor, that is Houze, uh, INC, Houze Inc. So probably you have already heard and you know that Houze is another company that deals in construction, also renovation, design, custom design of homes and offices. And so they work also in the Kanto area. If you need bilingual services, contact Hannah Urushisawa Howell. She's on LinkedIn, and well, all the services will be customized to your needs. So, and now we can actually move into the questions. And one of the questions, Michael, is so it's a kind of half joking question. Have you ever been asked to be Santa Claus, either in your
Yes,
yes, or your community. Sorry, I think it goes without saying, but
I've been Santa Claus at our Christmas party for many years.
many years. So that's your
and
part-time job at the end
I,
of the
I I around the end of the year, I offer to my clients that like if you and jokingly so, and again, it's another one of these connections. It's another one of these associations. I say, hey guys, look, if you need me to show up at a Christmas party, just give me a couple of couple of weeks' notice because I get quite busy around December, and that that could be at a meeting with one of the mega banks, one of the major manufacturers, and it's just again, you use what you have. And I would be more than happy to be yeah. But like I said, if anyone needs a sample, let me know. Give me a few weeks' notice, and we're good to go.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely, all the time.
So I will continue, this conversation just for a minute or so more. So
Yeah.
when I first met you online, um, basically it was a meeting between you, Tim, and me. And so I told Tim that you are, in my view, you're the perfect person who can be the Santa Claus here in Japan. And I don't know why I get that feeling, but it's really out there. So yes, thank you for that. And everybody who is watching, yes, if you need Santa Claus at the
Yeah.
end of the year, make sure
Right
that you,
behind your guy.
yes, yes,
Get your orders in early.
yes, early indeed. Okay, great. And then another question we have on YouTube is from Marcus Sky, and Marcus writes, "Do you think venturing into Japan at the age of 35 is possible? And given your business background, could you recommend a book about business manners?"
Oh,
Two
well,
questions, actually.
yeah, first
First
part,
one, yeah.
definitely 35, 45. I, it does get difficult the older you get, and I'm beginning to find out that myself. Um, to be honest, but at the 35, absolutely, it's a great time in your career.
You're still young.
You see, exactly, you have the experience,
Mhm.
but you're still young enough to have the hunger.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, absolutely. Books. I have to admit, I'm not a book. Guy. I'm more of a mahjong guy. I, don't- it's like,
Yeah. No, I know what you
I
mean.
learned
Yeah.
through I learned through doing rather than reading, and I probably should read more. But yeah, and there is so much advice out there. There really is. There's so many different ways to do things, and there's so much contradictory information, and it's all right. It just depends on your particular situation. So yeah, sorry, I can't help you with that second part.
I
But
can I don't have a
yeah,
book.
you're a reader.
I, I was gonna say I don't have a book to recommend, but I could recommend that you subscribe to Japan Expert Insights YouTube channel because
Mhm.
we have these podcasts once a week, and it's always on themes related to mostly to culture and business in Japan, and I think you learn a lot just from listening to that. So a little plug for Japan Expert Insights here.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
Shameless plug.
But yes, because there we always invite speakers who have a long experience working in Japan or with Japanese companies, and they share their experiences. And also, if you feel like you want to reach out to one of those speakers in particular, feel free to do that.
Oh
We always
yeah.
encourage our viewers and listeners to reach out and connect. For example, with Michael now on LinkedIn. Michael is on LinkedIn, and the link to his profile is shared, in, of course, if you're on LinkedIn, you can find him here, but it will be shared on YouTube as well. So feel free to reach out and talk with them as
yeah,
well, or just watch the podcasts, because they all have different topics. So you're very welcome to do that, and we'll be happy. Also, you can reach out to Tim or to me, right? We are there to.
And you can reach out to me too.
Woohoo! And to you guys as well. Yes.
Hey, sorry, I always, come in from out of, nowhere.
Yes.
Sorry, can I chime in about the age? Hi,
Sure.
Michael. I'm
Yes.
in the clubhouse, so you don't see me, but I'm alive and well.
Great. Yes.
At least I think so. I have a friend, a Japanese friend. Oh, okay. So, Michael, just briefly, I am Japanese, but I've lived in California for 20 years and in 2 years in Texas. I have a friend. She came to California when she was 45, and she's actually thriving.
Right.
Maybe different from Japan to U.S. and the U.S. is more like there are many more, variety of folks, especially in California. It's easy for Japanese to sort of, get accustomed to the lifestyle. But I think it's like you said, if you sort of, venture out of your comfort zone and try to build the relationship based on your interest, I think age, like, I agree. The older you get, it might be tougher, but if you like to do it, you can do it.
Mhm.
That's my humble opinion. But I have a
Yes.
question for you, though, Michael, if I can.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Thank you. So about the age, though, because I was reading about this book. It's called The Anxious Generation. They're
Mm.
talking about Gen Z. Those guys, they're so well connected on SNS and Facebook, and the where the anything and everything online. Do you see the way that they come to Japan and they try to build the relationship? Is there any, sort of, if you can observe, is there any change in sort of newcomers to Japan? And then if somebody, contact you for advice, is there any specific advice to Gen Z? Thank you. I'm sorry. You
Yeah.
can skip it. This is a kind of a tough question.
No, it's fine. And again, how those people kind of come to Japan, what they do, I really don't know. But the advice I would give everybody, regardless of which generation, is get your hands dirty. Like, it's no good sitting at your keyboard messaging everybody. You need to get out there. You need to physically participate. My advice: get your hands dirty, get out there. Literally, get your hands dirty. I have a friend who has a restaurant, who has a farm, and every couple of weekends I go and help him on the farm, and he has other people come and help him. I get my hands literally dirty quite a lot. But again, the keyboard and social media is great and everything, and you'll probably find a lot of the initial pointers online, but definitely just get out there, mix, mingle, go old style. Get your hands dirty is the advice that I have.
Yeah, I would just like add to that. I think online, if I were like not living in Japan, but I wanted to come here. Step one for me would be online connections. Just get to know people first online. It's a funnel. And then step two, these types of live meetings, if you can get to know people live, like
Yeah.
in this context. And then if you could come here, it should all be with the goal of meeting in person, getting to the analog meeting, but using, I think, SNS as a way to get there rather
As a
than the
mm,
end all. That's how I would approach it. Because then you
yeah.
can make contacts before you actually get here on the ground. Right. I've done that. By the way, I did that when I moved to Hawaii. I already had many contacts and friends online. Then when I moved there, I met them, and it was an easier transition because I used it. So I did in Japan, obviously, I already have friends here from many years ago, but that's
Right.
what I would do starting over, just for what
Yeah.
it's worth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Getting your hands dirty,
Mm.
literally. Thank you.
Yeah. No, but I
But,
also
but
think that, yeah. Well,
I
in
was
the
just going
West,
to say, go
oh
ahead.
yeah.
Sorry, Maya.
No, I wanted to say that in the West, we're big on volunteering, right? It is all about volunteering and, volunteering here and there and so on. And I think that these things in Japan actually happen on a more micro level. And so, just as Mike mentioned, of course, you help or you volunteer in your community, right? The local community, let's say your cho, that is like what's your hamlet, in the town. But at the same time, you reach out to certain people and you do what you enjoy doing, and while helping them. So Mike helps his friend who has a farm, right? But it can be done on many different in many different ways with different people. And I think that once again it is just underestimated, because we always say, oh yeah, we the Westerners are great volunteers, not so much here in Japan. But I think it's the way things happen here are on a more micro level. and
Yeah.
it's still more or less the same thing. So, and it is underestimated actually the power of this, providing help to people in close to you and your community, also your workplace, and so on.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
By the
Helping
way,
people you know.
gamble, by the way.
Okay, yeah.
I heard the marjan is a great way to prevent from getting Alzheimer's. So I need to learn.
Oh,
So today
okay.
you mentioned marjan, so that gives me an
Yeah.
incentive. Thank you. And
It's
actually, Chinese marjan is
interesting. Yeah, much easier. Yeah, yeah. But it's interesting you say that because one of my other volunteer activities is that once every week or 2 weeks, a local cafe on their day off, they open it up in the morning for mahjong. So the elderly people in the community can come and play mahjong for an hour, 2 hours in the morning. So I'm one of
Oh,
the senseis there that help them. So it definitely is recognized as a good mental activity. Um, and yeah, so if you're looking for something to help with mental agility, definitely Mahjong is an interesting uh,
yeah.
thing to
Right.
try.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I have a friend and she is very much into not marjan but very much into sado. So that is the tea ceremony.
That's all.
Yes, and then so once I asked her, "Why are you so much into this?" Because it's, of course, once again, it is a process, right? And she said, I have a history of Alzheimer's in my family, and I have never ever met any of my teachers in Sado with an Alzheimer, and all of them are already beyond a certain age. So, and I'm like, what? Why is that? And she said, well, green tea, that's the matcha, actually works very well for your brain. And so she says that she has never cited any research, any medical research,
Mm.
in neuroscience or whatever, but she's convinced, that matcha, the particles and the substances in the green tea actually help you prevent or help everybody prevent
okay. So drinking
Alzheimer's.
tea while playing mahjong, that would be like
Yes,
Green tea,
right,
Double, yeah.
right. So maybe that's, the way to go. Indeed.
Yeah.
Wow, great. Okay, so I cannot find other questions at the moment, which is really interesting because we usually have quite a lot of people asking this and that. But also Deborah, when we started this session this morning, Deborah and the Snow, she mentioned it is fascinating to hear the story of what brings people to Japan. And while I was listening to you, Ryan, oh, sorry, my mic. Anyway, Mike. So I thought that maybe this is another way of looking, at what is attractive about the country here and its culture, because it seems that there are different things for different person, right? So some people nowadays, of course, with the younger generations, it's things like pop culture. Of course, part of it is, of course, it is anime. It is probably the fashion nowadays.
Mm.
That what's the name? Um, I cannot come up with it. The cosplay, right? Okay, yes, cosplay and everything. But also for some people, it's an entirely different thing. Somebody read, a book by Haruki Murakami or Kazuo Ishiguro, and they just decided to come. So it's fascinating to see how or what draws people to the country and how it is different for every single person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think two things there. One is like what draws people, and the other is what keeps people. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I
Mhm.
had I had no intention of staying 30 plus years. I think I put the decimal place in the wrong. I was kind of, oh, let's try it for 3 years and see what happens. But it's interesting, and I guess trying new things kind of makes you stuck here because you kind of find out quickly the new or sorry, the really good things about Japan. So definitely, what I think, well, at least for me, and begin. when I came to Japan, I didn't really know why I came. It was just an opportunity. I wasn't interested in Japan per se. From a technology perspective, yes, but other than that, I really didn't have any connections with Japan. Like I didn't study Japanese or have any prior knowledge. But for me, it was what kept me here was kind of the key thing to me. And yeah, try new things. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but
Yeah.
No, that's perfect
It's
because
funny. I was just going to say, it's funny that you distinguish between what attracted you here and what kept you here, because I think that's a really important point. In my case, the Navy sent me against my will. My first choice was Rota, Spain. My second choice was
nice.
Edsel, Scotland. My third choice, I didn't know. I'm like, what's this place, Atsugi? Okay, I don't want to go to Japan. So they sent me here kicking and screaming. So I came here not wanting to be here. And
Mhm.
within 6 months, I fell in love with Japan. And as you were talking, Michael, I was thinking, why? I loved the civility.
Mm,
I loved the fact that all these stereotypes I brought with me that the media had planted in my head were not true. The Japanese, I was shocked to find out that the Japanese had a sense of humor. That's how dumb I was. I was 19 years old, right? And having a beer with them, sharing a laugh together, and then just the civility and the helpfulness, at
mm,
least that I
yeah.
got, was
Mhm.
so endearing. And all you got to do is make a couple friends here, and then, in my case, I had fallen in love with the people. That was
Yeah.
what
Mm, yeah.
kept me here. And I've been dealing with Japan now for 46 years. I
Mm,
didn't live here the whole time, but I've been here 17 years, right? So
right. Right.
so that made me think. So thank you for that. Like, what kept me here? You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, I remember also, well, a friend of mine, she left last year because she was sent back home. I mean, she was just sent to Japan for a short period of time, but she always asked that question. So why are you still here? Of course, my family is here. The first thing, but another thing, Tim, as you said, so. Um, Basically the civility is a very big part of it, but I have discovered that through the hard way that there are unwritten rules everywhere for everything, and then in the beginning, until you figure those rules out and learn to do things by them, it takes time, it takes effort, it takes mental energy, and so on and so on. But once you have figured that out, you know what the limits are, right? And then it feels really comfortable. So there are boundaries, and you know that if you do things within those boundaries, you will be fine. Another thing, though, is that you don't have to keep all the time within these boundaries. As a foreigner, you are allowed and also expected to a certain extent to go beyond them. And this, you have the freedom which the local people do not have. And then this gives you opportunities here. You can find opportunities, for business. You can find opportunities for doing things you love, or you can find opportunities for creating things, and so on and so on. And so this is something that we do not appreciate enough, I believe. I mean, as foreigners
Mm,
living in
Yeah.
the country.
But you have to do it responsibly too,
Yes,
because if you
yes.
overdo it, then you get marginalized.
Oh, yes,
So
yeah.
it's, yeah, yeah.
It's
yes.
a fine line, but look, I'll never be Japanese. I never aspire to be
Mhm.
Japanese.
It's
It's my
painful
superpower.
being Japanese.
It's
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's my
Yes,
superpower,
I
and
concur. You always hear that.
Yes, the pressure cooker.
To
Indeed.
be a
like
Japanese, which is so
it allows
true.
like
Mm.
as you said, it kind of allows you to kind of veer along the fringes without kind of going too far
Yeah.
either direction. Again, as Tim
Right.
mentioned,
Yeah.
at work, that is so useful because there's so much procrastination that goes on when you have, for example, the headquarters in New York talking to the headquarters and the customer in Tokyo, and oh, it's like, come on, guys, do you want to do
Right.
this or not? So
Yeah.
being able to
Thank
bridge
you.
that gap and navigate along those borderlines
Hmm.
is really useful. And we again, at least for me, I don't want to kind of make a general statement, but I never aspire to be Japanese. Like my Japanese is never going to be perfect enough. I'm
Right.
never going to have the discipline to be Japanese, and that's not a bad thing.
It would be
Um,
inauthentic for you to try.
well, exactly. It would look kind of
Yes.
really weird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
But
You don't want
Michael,
to creep them out.
try it.
Don't creep them
Yeah, yeah.
out by being too
Right.
Japanese.
Don't worry
Yuka.
um,
about
Yes.
what angle you need to
why
bow.
else?
Or,
Anyway,
Okay.
um,
Yuka.
sorry. Michael, you said I've been impressed with the way you speak English, though. You have a way of very sort of soothing and calming way
It's
of
the
speaking.
Irish. It's
Yes.
the Irish. That's what it is.
Irish thing? Oh, okay. So I
yeah.
want to
It's
be
the
I,
Irish.
Irish.
Is
I
it
only
Irish
drank
thing?
half the
It's just,
bottle today.
wow. It's just so soothing, and then So if you speak Japanese in a similar way, I'm sure
Mm.
people fall in love with you.
I'll
Who?
fall asleep.
So no,
Yes.
I say, and I love the way you speak, and yeah, and I wish So I'm gonna, because I'm kind of hyper, so I'm trying to calm down. So thank you.
Thank you, Yuka, for mentioning that. Well, and we're getting closer to 9 o'clock, so this is the time when we say goodbye to everybody and wish everybody a happy midweek and a reminder of the week and so on. So, Michael, thanks so very much for agreeing to be
Oh
our
yeah,
speaker
No
today and
worries.
sharing
My
your
pleasure.
story. Yes,
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
yeah. And hopefully we can get together soon, one of these days, over a glass of wine. So,
That would be cool. That would be cool.
all
Yeah.
right,
yes, it would be. So
practice
great.
what we preach.
Yes. So
Thank
the
you.
link, yes, the link to Michael's LinkedIn profile will be shared in the description of the YouTube video, and also the same with Tim and me. Feel free to reach out to us. And also, so thank you very much. I want to once again say, well, we appreciate the help of our sponsors, Kanchu.com and Houze.Inc. So because of them, we are able to deliver these podcasts. So many thanks for this. The links to their services and offices will be shared also in the description of the YouTube video. Thanks a lot to everybody, and we're looking forward to having you with us again. First of all, this Sunday at 8:20, when we talk about the latest happenings in Japanese politics with Timothy Langley, and once again next. Oh no, this Sunday, sorry, 8:20, and next Wednesday at 8 o'clock, when we'll be here talking about business and culture in Japan. That's all for the moment. Thanks a lot. Have a great midweek.
Thank you.
Dane.